So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the EU warning the UK over deregulation, saying we are watching. So it's quite interesting. This paragraph here is about pretty standard stuff about sort of financial stuff. So don't really need it, but the Express generally just cuts and pastes the first paragraph from somewhere, so it's a decent start. The European Commission's Financial Services Chief Mairead McGuinness said the EU was watching the UK's plans for its financial service sector with interest. In comments to the Irish Independent, she said deregulation of financial services has no place in a system which is already too opaque. And, you can kind of see this with a lot of the attempts to sanction Russians. It's taken, Russian oligarchs, it's taken a long time to sanction them. Also, the fact that some of these guys run via, guys and girls really run via like shell companies and other things makes it quite difficult to track where the money is. And so, yeah, she's right. It's a system that is too opaque already. Deregulation would make it worse. The EU, however, has begun to review its own regulation, looking at its Solvency II rules, which govern the amount of money insurance companies are able to use for investments, which I don't know the specifics of the Solvency II rule, but the fact is, like, it seems like an important thing that insurance companies have money in case they need to bail out, things that go wrong. If they don't have enough money to bail out companies that, their trades don't pay off or whatever, you're in for a rough time. 2008's call it. Solvency II has been cited as an area ripe for reform in the UK, with the Association of British Insurers estimating that as much as £95 billion could be freed up and invested in areas such as infrastructure and net zero, which would be great. But again, insurance companies do need to keep a certain amount of money, don't they, in case things do go wrong? Because otherwise, who's going to bail out the insurance companies? It'll be the taxpayer. The fact that EU itself looking at changes to the framework has sparked concern. The UK could fall behind the EU on competitiveness if Solvency II is not adequately updated. So it could be the case that the EU make more changes to Solvency II and kind of, I guess, weaken or deregulate the regulations around it quicker than the UK can. That would be quite funny, wouldn't it? Andrew Bailey has described the case for reform as clear, commenting, "I do not for a moment consider that Solvency II we transport from EU law and regulation is best suited to the UK. Surely that's something you could have sorted out then, big man." As the UK and EU increasingly diverge on regulation, one idea put forward has been a joint regulatory forum. Forums are just where you talk to people, guys. Like, it's not going to be that great. They exist between the EU and the US, Japan, Switzerland, Canada. It's just a talking shop. That's all it is. Such a forum would allow proposals for regulatory changes to be discussed and resolve any impacts on access. So you could say, we want to do this bit of deregulation. Well, if you do this, these are the things that will happen, and these are the kind of actions we would take. Okay, maybe we won't do that then. That's kind of what these forums would allow. He goes, in recent months, Mr. Keaveney has rejected, so this is the attracted support from the City of London's Irish-born London Mayor, Vincent Keaveney, has rejected claims that city jobs have been lost as a consequence of Brexit, saying, "We think it's a very small number in the region of £7,500. It's not just about the jobs, though. It's about where future investments go, which, again, is harder to track. But you'd have to look at how much more kind of investments are going through stock exchanges in other countries. In the run-up to the referendum, a number of predictions were made on the potential for firms to relocate to the EU to maintain access, taking jobs and staff with them. However, Mr. Keaveney suggested the opposite has occurred, which I genuinely, his logic is really bad. He goes, "We've seen tens of thousands of jobs created on the fintech side of the city, which has made any job losses or reallocations on the Brexit side relatively insignificant." So on the one hand, you're saying that we've lost 7,500 jobs, but there are new jobs being created on the fintech side, which gets rid of the 7,500 we lost, which doesn't really make sense, because you'd have to look at how much were these people paid and things like that. But the thing is, what if we had more creation on the fintech side as well as keeping those 7,500 jobs? How much better would that have been, pal? So yeah, his arguments don't make sense, and especially because with certain equivalency rulings in place, the UK will still be viable for trades for a while, up until 2025, and then we'll see what happens when these kind of equivalencies run out. The EU, however, is increasingly looking to try to move more business to the bloc, something we've covered in the past, with McGuinness trying to end reliance of EU banks on the UK financial services, things like clearing houses, which makes sense because the the EU have no control over what kind of the UK passes in terms of deregulations of financial services. So they would want to take back control of certain financial institutions or services, really, because they would have oversight over them. Currently, banks across the continent remain heavily on London's clearinghouses for transactions, with the EU now having extended temporary access arrangements until 2025 because the EU initially didn't give itself enough time to really figure things out, especially because certain laws might have to be changed, and London's clearinghouse is massive. It deals with so much money, these clearinghouses in London. And the EU, I don't think EU stock exchanges are really built for that, the clearinghouses, etc. Also, they would have to hire a lot more people to kind of, manage the situation. McGuinness insisted there would be no further extensions beyond 2025, and they are, she has launched consultations to kind of figure out how to make the EU more attractive for investors, so they would do more trades in the EU rather than in the UK, which is probably the right thing to do. Talking to people, figuring out why they're trading in the UK, what do they need specifically to convince them is a good idea. Not just yanking the carpet from underneath them. The challenge remains uphill, though, with some banks reportedly indicating they would rather use New York houses if access to London ended. It might be because they would have more access to different stocks and more better stocks, if they used New York. And also, New York would have already established stock exchanges, clearinghouses and things like that. It would be, very big, very dependable, rather than the EU's ones, which are far more fragmented. You've got, stock exchange in Amsterdam, for example, in Frankfurt, in Paris, which, is far more fragmented rather than having it all in one place, which New York has, London had, and also Tokyo has. So it'd be interesting to see if they go to Tokyo and New York rather than the EU. That would be quite funny. But again, it'd still be money out of the UK, and some dodo heads talking about how the EU wants to destroy the UK. It's like, no, they don't, bruv. Like, what they really want is oversight over these financial institutions. The EU does have equivalency deals, I believe, with Tokyo. It definitely has one with New York. So that's why, trade will move to those kind of places. But the UK has consistently talked about deregulation. So why would the EU grant the UK equivalency in that regard, when all we've done is constantly talk about deregulation since before Brexit happened, really, since in 2016. So why would they give us equivalency, especially when we've talked about getting rid of certain protections and other things, etc. So this move from the EU does not surprise me. They are watching very closely to see what the UK does. 2025 is about 3 years away, so we can see how much damage Sunak can do in terms of deregulation. But there will be an election potentially next year, and definitely there'll have to be one the year after if it doesn't happen next year. So a change of government, anything could happen, really. So, I'll try my best to keep you guys updated on that as best as possible. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.